Hello, everyone. As you file in, I want to let you know you are in the right place. Just going to allow about another minute or so for folks to file in and get going. But we thank you for joining us and look forward to today's webcast. Again, I want to welcome you all to today's Safety and Health webcast sponsored by Ideagen, letting you know you're in the right place, just allowing about another 30 seconds or so for everyone to get settled and filed in. But we'll be getting going in about 30 seconds from now. Okay, an official hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Safety and Health Magazine webcast, From Compliance to Culture, Building a Foundation for Safety Maturity, sponsored by Ideagen. My name is Kevin Drewley. I'm an associate editor with Safety and Health Magazine, and we'll be moderating today's session. Thanks for joining us. In a few minutes, we'll start our presentation, but first, let's review some preliminary items. The views of today's speakers and organizations are their own and may not necessarily reflect those of the National Safety Council or Safety and Health Magazine. Any mention of a commercial enterprise, product, or publication does not necessarily mean the council or magazine endorses those items. At the end of today's webcast, we'll conduct a question and answer session. To ask a question, simply click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, type your question, and click the send button. Feel free to ask your question at any time during the presentation. You don't have to wait for the question and answer session to begin. We're trying to answer as many questions as possible, but because of the large number of participants today, we might not get to every question. Any unanswered questions will be forwarded along to today's speakers. At the end of the webcast, you'll be asked to complete a brief evaluation survey. We'll let you know more about that after the presentation. This webcast will be archived, so you can access it after today's live event. To view this webcast and all of our past webcasts, please visit safetyandhealthmagazine.com/events. With that, let's go ahead and get started by telling you a bit more about Ideagen. Ideagen provides software that helps more than 11,000 companies protect their people, customers, operations, and reputations. Ideagen EHS, formerly known as Process Map, is a unified environmental health and safety solution that provides real-time visibility into risk and safety metrics across your workforce. Growing businesses and global enterprises use Ideagen EHS to quickly identify patterns and incident hotspots, streamline inspections and audits, and prevent injuries. You can see how at ideagen.com. Our speakers today are Nathan Yawn and Gabriel Tencio. Nathan is an experienced environmental health and safety professional who loves to exchange ideas. He prefers to be on the leading edge when it comes to embracing new ideas and technology. Nathan has a degree in EHS and earned a CSP from the Board of Certified Safety Professionals and Green Belt in Six Sigma tools. His career has spanned several industry sectors, including scrap metal recycling, construction, mining, and heavy and light manufacturing. In his current role, Nathan is a corporate EHS manager at Masonite, where he provides direction in both domestic and international locations and works with a team to build the company's EHS roadmap. Before joining Masonite, Nathan spent time in the U.S. Army Reserve as an enlisted leader and was deployed to Afghanistan in 2005. Gabriel is an experienced industry and safety engineering specialist. He's a certified safety professional through the Board of Certified Safety Professionals, ISO 45001 and 14001 lead auditor by the British Standards Institution. As a product manager at Ideagen, Gabriel aims to improve occupational health and safety in organizations using software solutions. Additionally, he's recognized by the American Society of Safety Professionals for his leadership in the construction and ergonomics practice specialties. Again, we thank you all for tuning into this presentation. Gabriel, whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Hello, and thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Kevin, for the introductions. I'm glad to be here partnering with Nathan, in honor of this opportunity for the first time, speaking for the National Safety Council. Excited about that, and this is to talk about our session on the transformative journey from compliance to culture, building a foundation for safety maturity. And from today's presentation, our goal is really to talk about how to start building that foundation with some practical approaches and strategic solutions that you can consider today, along with some other lessons learned to help you reach your goals in this maturity process. And I would like to start by sharing a personal story. I remember when I first started in business a long time ago, I was working for a small construction company and where I used to track only lagging indicators, following more like a reactive approach type of culture. But then, as I had the opportunity to transition to work for larger companies with a more mature safety culture and robust safety management system, I then started to realize how important the benefits of leveraging a proactive safety culture help for better safety performance, which we know that it's not easy. For some organizations, this process may take years, or for some others, even generations to see that happening. But in my opinion, when establishing your goals in this journey, metrics are important here for several reasons. And this is why this is one of my favorite topics, because to me, key performance indicators are essential for any business, regardless of your functional area or your industry sector, whether you are in safety or operations or project management, or even for any business that you want to undertake as a business owner. You need somehow some measure of your performance to help you track your progress. And it's also important to have some measures that will tell you what you need to change in order to impact the performance that you really want. And when I first thought about this opportunity, I immediately connected the mapping journey with the principles of the famous Bradley curve in safety, which we are going to talk about that briefly. And for those who are looking at this Bradley curve for the first time, it provides a visual representation of an organization's safety maturity journey. As we know that every organization's journey is different, right? It delineates 4 different stages, ranging from reactive to dependent, and then from independent to interdependent, each characterized by different levels of safety, performance, and organizational culture. In a reactive safety culture, safety is often treated as a second priority, and it seems as a compliance obligation most of the time, where the focus is primarily addressing incidents rather than preventing them, and where rules are followed only when enforced, when you are there on site, and where employees may feel hesitant to report hazards or near misses because of fear of blame or retaliation. But the positive of this Bradley curve is the projection for growth and transformation, where organizations can shift along this curve by embracing proactive safety measures and developing a culture of collaboration and continuous improvement. And as you progress further along this curve, you reach that interdependence level. Here is where safety isn't just everyone's responsibility, it's a collective undertake, where teams collaborate proactively, looking out for one another's safety as they would their own. And really, the benefits of an interdependent safety culture are unlimited. And the reason why I share this with you is that not only should help reduce incidents and injuries over time, but it also promotes trust, engagement, productivity, where employees in this level typically feel valued and empowered, leading to a healthier and more resilient workforce. And before we proceed further, let's take a moment to gauge where each of you stand on this journey, as we want to make this session more interactive. We want to know what is your current level of safety maturity today. So I hope that you can see the poll question screen on your side with the respective options to select the one that you feel is your best fit. Okay, so that we can later talk, about where you all fall on the Bradley curve. Are you still in that reactive stage, mainly responding to incidents, or are you in that dependent level, only relying on management to be responsible for safety, or have you started to transition into a more independent and proactive approach, prioritizing prevention individually or collectively, reaching that interdependent level? Okay. And feel free to answer, it's anonymous. I hope that in a few seconds we can see the respective results on the screen. So we notice here the top trending. Wow, is
Yeah,
interdependent level by
surprising.
45%. Amazing. Followed by independent by 23%, and then 90% dependent, and then lastly is reactive by 12%. Okay. So Nathan, anything that you would like to comment about these poll results?
Well, I got to be honest. I think our work here is done if this many people are already in the independent stage, or we can learn from it, because this can take a lot of time for organizations to get there, and it takes a ton of effort to maintain being into that interdependent stage. I would have guessed more in that dependent, with some departments becoming independent. So this is fantastic news. It's awesome that we've got so many successful organizations out there.
Yeah, great insights. Okay, so as we continue on the next slide, the reason why we wanted to share with you that first poll right after the Bradley curve is because we wanted to share with you how identifying your organization's position on the Bradley curve may help, in addition to assessing its safety culture maturity, to also be able to tailor your strategies and interventions to enhance safety performance based on your organization needs, to promote continuous improvement, and finally aiming to achieve higher level of safety excellence. And the other reason why we wanted to talk about differentiating between proactive versus a reactive approach is that is to better help you understand the common characteristics that could be blocking from moving forward or helping with progress. For example, in a reactive approach, most organizations focus on lagging indicators versus a proactive approach. They focus on leading indicators, which measure what people are doing today to prevent incidents and injuries tomorrow. So they measure stuff like training plans, audit programs, risk assessments, stuff like that. In contrast with lagging indicators, they measure in addition to what we know as OSHA recordables. They measure what we know as workers' compensation, EMR, citations, penalties, among others. And another common trend of a reactive dependent or a reactive or dependent approach is when the responsibility is on the safety department only instead of everyone's responsibility. And we are going to talk about that later in this presentation on building that culture of accountability. And another example for this case is where injuries blame on employees instead of looking at the true root causes of the incidents and looking at them as an opportunity to learn and improve. Okay, and we are going to gauge about all that with the next poll on your top challenges today. But before we get there, Nathan, what are your thoughts about establishing goals and understanding how the right key performance indicators can help you reach your goals in this maturity process?
Well, part of maturing is knowing where you want to be. You know, what does maturity look like in your organization, or what does good look like in your organization? And chances are, when you think about that, you have an idea in mind, and you know that should be your goal. Our goal could be to have a super low injury rate, right? Lagging indicators have their place. They're typically those goals, but you know, that lagging indicator doesn't give you that plan to get to that goal. And that's where KPIs can come into play, where these key performance indicators, where we've decided, or your team has decided, what do we need to do now or on a regular cadence that we can also measure and report out on, that we think will predict that better outcome. When I think about establishing a goal and looking at KPIs, I reflect on a company that I worked for who had a lot of ergonomic injuries, and we were so reactive. It would happen, then we would fix it. We had this strain, let's make that workstation better. It was just chasing the next injury, where finally we got our heads together, made that goal, and got a capital plan together to say, hey, look, we really do know where these high ergonomic risk injuries work cells are. Let's get a capital plan to either automate or, you know, lift assist, or put in some mechanical means of moving material around. Like, let's not make our employees be the tool. And so we got the capital plan in place. We got the capital approved. And our KPI was measuring, how are we doing at getting these projects done? How are we doing at putting them in? Are we spending the money that we have allocated to us? And we really found success in in taking that structured and proactive approach. Once we could take a look at our data, we knew what we had to attack. We got that plan together. So great success in that.
Agreed. Yeah. So having perceived the importance of measurement in obtaining safety performance in this maturity process by establishing your goals and understanding how those key performance indicators can help you reach your goals, as Nathan just explained, we then come to the next question, which is about the top challenges regarding safety culture in this maturity process. So I hope that you can see the second poll posted on the screen. So before we dive into the practical solutions, let's address some common challenges you may be facing on your safety culture maturity process so that we can better tailor our discussion to address your top pain points first. And it's important to mention as you answer this second poll that there is a difference between safety culture and safety climate. Sometimes we confuse both terms, but in that case, safety climate, it refers to the current perception of safety from workers. And unlike safety culture, refers to the values and beliefs and attitudes and behaviors regarding safety. Okay, so let's wait for a couple of seconds until we can see the results. All right, so we see the top common trend on getting buy-in and resources from senior management by 36%, followed by shifting attitudes, interesting, around accidents by 27%, and then getting and maintaining buy-in on the shop floor by 27%, and lastly, not knowing what tools to leverage to aid improvement by 10%. All right. Okay, great insights from these poll results. And that is why we wanted to share this second poll so that we can talk about in the next part of the webinar how to overcome these obstacles with practical approaches and strategic solutions to enhance safety culture and also to help with achieving greater levels of safety excellence. And an interesting book that I recommend reading, it is titled Measurement of Safety Performance by Dan Peterson. His book cites with a simple but at the same time profound statement, which is vital to help you recognize your baseline and know where you stand, because we usually jump to solutions of our own or accept those dictated by others. But according to this author reference on the roadmap to safety excellence, he recommends to start with three main steps to build that foundation. First is to define your reality. Where are you today? Second is to define the vision. Where do you want to be? And third is to define the process. How do we get there? And there is one good story that I wanted to share with you to better explain this principle. And this one was about another construction company that had a big problem with increasing rates of incidents and injuries. Not only did each incident mean that a member of the crew was hurt, but it also meant a delay in the completion of the tight project schedules, increasing insurance rates. So reducing incidents had become their most important goal for this company. And once they had established that goal and worked to determine the lead measures that were both predictive of fewer incidents and influenceable by the team, they were doing already a good job on tracking training hours and stuff like that. But later, they looked more carefully at the primary causes of their incidents and developed an idea for their leading measure, which was compliance to safety standards. They decided to measure compliance to 6 safety-specific standards related to wearing hard hats, gloves, boots, safety eyewear, as well as using scaffolds and roof braces to keep workers from sliding off the roof. Noticing that was the common trend on their incidents, they were certain that enforcing these specific 6 standards at high level of compliance would be both predictive and influenceable in reducing incidents. And within 1 year of focusing on the leading measure of compliance to these safety standards, they achieved the best safety record in 30-year history of the company. But it was not easy. one of the most challenging aspects of their leading measure was getting the data. It's because in their case, the lead measure was compliance to safety standards, so they have to physically observe and perform despite their busy daily routine. But because reducing incidents was their one important goal and safety compliance was the primary point for achieving it, they made it happen week after week, no matter what. And I share this story with you because the lesson here is that the lead measure data is almost always more difficult to get than lagging indicators data. We often see teams struggle with this, saying that getting that data is going to take real work, or we are too busy to do that. But if you are serious about your widely important goals, and then you must create a way to track your lead measures. Without data, you cannot drive performance on the lead measures, and without the lead measures or leading indicators, you don't have leverage. And when the widely important goals is truly while important, then you got to have that leverage to level up. So Nathan, what are your thoughts on helping with maturing and leveling up in this process?
Yeah, thanks, Gabriel. I think, we can even break down that story a little bit, right? When we look at how do you level up? Well, you got to know where you want to go next. What's that goal that we had? Well, it's often going to be to have 0 or fewer incidents than we had. But the big part of this is, okay, well, that's kind of an obvious goal. We all want to get there, but why aren't we already there? You have to look at that data and say, oh, well, we've kind of always wanted to do that. What's stopping us? Is there a certain injury trend? Is there certain types of incidents that are just holding us back from achieving that goal? And it's really where that data comes in. Ideally having a software system where you can kind of slice and dice that data very easily really helps to pinpoint that, but also looking into those contributing factors, root causes, and really understanding more than just how people are getting hurt, but what's really going wrong in that process. And then because once we know why we're not already achieving our goals, we can then form that plan. So in your story, we've got problems with scaffolding, we have problems with PPE. Now there's things that our management team and our employees can do that we can measure that'll predict we won't have those problems anymore. It'll predict that that will no longer be a barrier to us achieving that goal. And that's really where these key performance indicators come in handy, because it's tracking something that's predictive. Some of the successes that I've had at different companies is really using mobile solutions, because I think we've all known, if we have observations being done in our plants as maybe a key performance indicator, we have could be safety concerns or other things that employees are reporting. The physical act of reporting can be a barrier to collecting that data, but then even more, counting them, filing them, following up on them can be pretty tough as well. So there's going to be different solutions that work for different companies. I'm just saying we've had pretty good success with mobile solutions, kind of quick fill out a 10-question form, gets processed, no one has to file it afterwards. There's obviously follow-up for corrective action purposes that have to take place, but we've really had success with that, because that's what we want to track, is how are we doing on those things that we said we were going to do to remove those barriers. And when you give people that information quicker, now they know how to win, right? They know how to execute on that plan. And that's something lagging indicators doesn't really give them. So that's something that's worked really well for us and helped us level up along the way. So getting into poll number 3, how does your organization assess its current level of safety maturity? So we've got a couple options here. Are we just looking at the number of recordable injuries that we have or don't have? Do you use a mix of leading and lagging indicators coupled with some comprehensive assessments that are, looking at things that are hard to measure, maybe like culture and sentiment and so forth? Do you use a comprehensive EHS audit performed by corporate, right? Corporate comes in and gives you a score about how you're doing, or you really not have a structured way to do this? If I had to speculate, I would say we're probably going to be in the 2 or 3 here. Looking how people have responded to other survey questions, I think we're using either a mix of indicators or, our friends at corporate come in and help point us in that right direction, making sure we're adhering to those corporate standards and so forth. But see how it ends up. Should have bet some money. Mix of leading and lagging indicators. And hey, that's really one that I would recommend, right? So, lagging indicators are going to be your goal. Your leading indicators are how you're going to achieve that goal. But then the comprehensive assessment tool really digs into the details, because it's, injury rates and those leading indicators aren't the whole picture. Where that comprehensive assessment tool, how are our programs, how's our training, how are we doing on auditing, how are we doing on compliance and culture and so forth. They're going to give you that complete picture, and then know where your next problem is. So if we could move on to the next slide, Gabriel, talk a little bit about getting buy-in across the organization. This was one that in a previous poll, people said, man, this can be pretty hard. It is hard. It's always going to be hard. People have a lot of competing incentives, right? So if I'm an operations manager, yeah, I want to do well in safety. No, I don't want anyone to get hurt. But I have about 3 or 4, maybe 10 other things. I need that supply chain to be in line. I need my quality to be in line. I need my production numbers, my cost per unit to be where it has to be too. And it's hard to focus everywhere. What I've felt has worked for me in the past for gaining buy-in is involving the people that you want to do the work in determining what work has to be done. And that can be tough as safety professionals, because I think with our experience and in coming to meetings like this, we got a lot of good ideas, and we say, I know how to attack this problem. In operations, just do this thing now for me and do a lot of it. We'll get better. And sometimes people just don't like to be told what to do, or if they don't know why, or they're not totally bought in, they're just they're just going to do the bare minimum, right? I look back again to some observation programs that I've had at some organizations in the past. If you require people to do 2, they're not really bought in. They're going to do 2, and they're not going to be that great. But where I've had success is using those safety committees and bringing management members into those committees as well, of course, and then saying, hey, we have this problem. What do you all think we could do to help influence this lagging outcome be what we want it to be? And when they help come up with that solution, it's their idea. So they want to participate, and they want to see their idea succeed. An interesting thing is sometimes I don't always agree. Like, I'm like, that's like 80% of what I hoped you would do. And as much as I want to push sometimes to, I think we just need to go a little bit farther. The idea that they're behind as operations is the idea that's going to make the most difference, right? So even if this is just what I found, even if it's not the best it could be, if they're behind it and they're going to execute, it does make a difference. So that's what I have for gathering buy-in. Gabriel, you want to talk about cultivating a culture of accountability?
Yeah, well, before we get there, actually, I wanted to share a good practice for getting buy-in. I can share from my experience to include workers' participation in the site safety committee meetings, as you also referred. And that's also with the purpose to review with them, the overall safety performance, per your key performance indicators, to recognize the wins and share lessons learned from unsafe acts or conditions or trends, and most important of all, getting their feedback or suggestions for improving safety. From my past experience, we always used to conclude the site safety committee meetings with an open-ended question to encourage participation by asking, what else do we need for improving safety? And we listened and started capturing their feedback and suggestions from these meetings. And that approach helped us a lot to raise awareness and responsibility to keep them engaged and motivated to work safely. And I share this story with you because to me, this has been also one of the most effective practices to get involved your top management and workers in a regular meeting to talk and engage about safety. And in addition to that, I also wanted to relate to this second strategy, which is about cultivating a culture of accountability. Based on the other book that Nathan also recommended, I recently read, is titled The Four Discipline of Execution. And that book also provides a similar example. To create that culture of accountability, your team should be meeting regularly. So it could be formally, like the safety committee meetings, like we just have shared, or informally by brief huddles, ideally on a weekly basis or more frequent if possible. But the focus of these meetings is simple, is to hold one another accountable for taking the actions that your team will need to take in alignment with your wildly important goals to move those lead measures despite your daily job challenges. And I know that is easy to say, but at the end is hard to do, right? But to ensure this, just be consistent, holding these meetings the same day at the same time. Losing consistency can easily lose momentum, impacting results. And the same would apply with keeping a standard agenda to account and report last meeting commitments, review your scorecards and dashboard, which we are going to talk about that on the next strategy, and lessons learned from successes, failures, and finally, plan to clear the path and make new commitments every time you meet with your team. So Nathan, something else you would like to add for cultivating a culture of accountability?
Well, I think 2 and 3 really go hand in hand because,
Yeah.
like you said, we're meeting. What are we going over in that meeting? Well, we found at Masonite a lot of success in scorecards. So we know what our goal is. We've decided what we can do to get to our goal. And we can measure that thing that we're doing to get to our goal, but how do we display it? Because if I was just to show TRIR, and it's on the scorecard, people can look at the TRIR and say, okay, that's where we're at, but what do I do with, how do I influence that number? And well, don't get hurt. Well, it doesn't work quite that way. But when we look at other scorecard metrics, it could, number of observations, safety concerns. Here in this scorecard, sorry, I'm making the Excel spreadsheet kind of short here, but it focuses on corrective action. So what we've said is, hey, we're actually pretty good at identifying risky situations that our employees are in. Our employees are really good at helping us with that as well. And we think that, hey, if we get those fixed with high-level controls, right, on that hierarchy control, we're going to reduce the risk. We're going to have less injuries. So we're focusing on corrective actions generated and that closure rate here. And there's other things like audits and training and kind of some health metrics on here, but we have closure rates is one of that big focus here. And we set some targets of closure rates that we want to have. And, if you're below that target, we make it red. And if you're at or above that target, we make it green. And just showing that almost gamifies the scorecard, right? Because it's people want to win. They've agreed to this being the plan that we're going to take, and they want to make it work. So it was great going over these and then hearing people say, okay, well, here's where I am, and I know what to do. I need to close more out. Let's get those meetings going to understand what corrective actions we still have open, which ones are overdue, why are they overdue, where can we push, asking how they can influence those metrics. So very exciting way. And this is just an example. In my opinion, this is an entry level example too with different scorecards. But with a scorecard, something you can display during these meetings, and the information or parts of it at least, people should be able to look at it and know what they can do to influence it. Whether it's making sure we report more, or doing that action that I agreed to do, or reviewing my action item list and getting some more things closed out on it. So I had a lot of great success with these.
Great, great. Yeah, I always share that the opinion of keeping, a compelling scorecard is essential to make sure that everyone always knows where they're at, so that they can tell whether or not they are winning. And this is why your scorecard or dashboard, it has to be designed to provide and impact your team's performance and provide a visual representation of the bet your team is making. And there are some tools to help describe this data. That is why I have also included some other examples that, you could take advantage of Pareto charts or line graph, or even as simple as bar charts, among others. So the idea of this is that it has to be simple and easily visible to your team. So whether streaming these dashboards via smart TV, or accessing via touchscreen device with the help of technology nowadays, as an employee or supervisor, everyone should always be able to access to your key performance indicators in real time from anywhere, from the plant floor or any job site. And once the team sees that the lag measure is moving because of the efforts they have made on the leads, typically that has a dramatic effect on engagement because they know that they are directly impacting the results. Okay, and lastly, we wanted to cover the lessons learned as we wrap up this session to answer the question as to why we are not maturing as quickly as we expected. And there is no doubt that the goal-setting approach does not solve all of the problems that an organization may have relating to performance in safety or safety maturity. Often following that approach, goals are set but not reached. And in that case, it's important to collect feedback and consensus to determine what went wrong and how to improve. Sometimes could be due to workers that deviate from established processes and procedures, which can lead to deficiencies in the system. For example, one of the common challenges I used to face when implementing a safety program from my past experiences was at the beginning the resistance due to conflicts with time management. I used to receive complaints from site managers, supervisors of not having enough time to conduct and record these leading activities on a regular basis. And this is why I say that it is critical to continue asking questions to your workforce. They are your source of truth here about any gaps or deficiencies in the system so that you can make the necessary adjustments and evaluate the overall effectiveness from there. Keep also in mind that it's not just about, the safety metrics and doing more trainings and stuff like that to boost your numbers. It's also real communication and relationship building that has to happen in order to keep moving towards that interdependent safety culture. Per Peterson, the same author I was referring earlier, some possible reasons why sometimes goals are unattainable could be due to being poorly constructed. So in addition to be SMART, you know that SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Peterson also recommends that it must be understood both by the supervisor and its collaborators. It must be mutually agreed upon both parties. Without that mutual agreement, the goal setting is relatively useless in this process. So Nathan, do you want to share your lessons learned?
Yeah, in thinking about this part of the presentation, I had a couple do's and don'ts that I've probably just learned the hard way, if you will. So don't do what you're currently doing just harder or more. If you're not meeting your goals, really find out why it didn't work. Ask employees, hey, it just didn't feel like you were into this. What can we do better, and so forth. I've been at several companies. Hey, we need to get back to the basics. We need to just buckle down and do this. And after the 5th year of doing some of that, it's time to do something different. Don't implement the flavor of the year type safety program just because it worked at another company. I'm not saying don't change your programs up. That's part of buy-in, right? Keeping it fresh, keeping it real. But especially in that 4 Disciplines of Execution book, the big thing is leading indicators need to be tailored to your problems. And hearing about another company's success is great, and it may give you some ideas, but just saying it worked for them, now I'm going to adopt that, probably, well, it may not be the right approach because it may have solved their problems and yours just may be different. Don't punish your management or employees into compliance or improving. Discipline's always kind of, part of, safety compliance. There's just some things that we go that way with, but we need to make sure that if people aren't following the rules, we understand why. Is it a bad rule? Is the process not set up to be able to follow that rule? Or, what are those competing incentives that are at that root cause? So learning from instant injuries or learning from actually the good things that happen as well is going to be that better approach and can make us react better. As far as understand the current point in your journey and reassess it. So just because, today I'm in the dependent phase, let's reevaluate next year. Am I doing better? Am I approaching that way? That way I can update my plan. The other thing to revisit is my plan still valid? My plan focuses around solving these problems. At the end of each year or quarter, I may need to assess, do I have those same problems? Because my plan is taking me on the trajectory to solve this problem, but did the problem go away for some other reason? And now I'm doing something that doesn't solve a current problem. Using scorecards and other KPIs, just huge fan of that. It's just so much success when you keep your initiatives in people's minds and you show them how to succeed. It's just going to get you where you need to go. And then get the employees that do the work involved in generating the solutions. Employees aren't problems to be solved, they're part of the solution. And they know how the real workday goes better than any of us, as much as we may not want to admit it. So learning from them, learning their struggles, learning about just how things really happen in their world is really just going to get you better information to better solve problems. So that's all I have for that, Gabriel.
Excellent. Well, to conclude this topic, to me, leading indicators, like I tried to explain, are essential here and can have an incredible impact on whether an organization achieves their goals. For this reason, it's important to use a structured approach to select the correct leading indicators that will take your team where they want to go. Simply adopting those leading metrics that other companies use can result in time and effort spent on activities that don't move the needle. And to listen more on this profound topic, we want to invite you all to our next session in person at Safety 2024 in Denver, Colorado, this August the 7th at 9:45 a.m. local time, where Nathan and I will take you through the process of finding the right key performance indicators, integrating them into your team's activities, lightening the workload with technology, of course, to make your life easier, and share some success stories to help you launch a proactive metric system. The session title is Leading Indicators in Practice, Using a Structured Approach to Achieve Your Goals. And with this, we have come to the end of our presentation. We hope that with this webinar, you have a better overview now on the foundation to build that safety maturity level that you want based on the Bradley curve that we have reviewed, starting with defining your wildly important goals based on your reality today and where you want to go, getting your team's buy-in on those wildly important goals, and create that culture of accountability with compelling scorecards to keep that engagement in this process. Thank you again for joining today. We invite you to ask any questions you may have during our live Q&A.
Well, excellent. Great job, both of you, Gabriel and Nathan. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your expertise. Before we do start the Q&A, just want to let everyone know about the evaluation survey that we're asking you to complete. The survey will open in a different screen after this webinar. We appreciate your input as it helps us to improve our future webcasts. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, type your question, and click the send button to submit. If we don't get to your question today, all unanswered questions will be forwarded along to today's speakers. And now we will get to some questions. This one to start is for you, Gabriel. I know you may have seen our chat today has kind of doubled as a virtual book club, and attendees are double checking on a couple titles mentioned earlier in the presentation and also talking about some others. But from your end, any recommended books or articles for further reading on safety maturity?
Absolutely, yes. I highly recommend A Measurement of Safety Performance by Dan Peterson. That one is a good one on safety maturity as well as for key performance indicators. The other book that Nathan recommended also is the best to me so far. It's titled The Four Disciplines of Execution. Both books provide great advice on key performance indicators.
Okay, thank you. Next one is for Nathan, and this question Nathan asks, how do you suggest overcoming resistance to change in safety practices?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think we've all struggled with it. I know we both, Gabriel and I, have said it a couple of times here, but I think it's worth saying again, get the employees. So management is our employees, right? So I know a lot of times you say get the employees, we're thinking about work, the operators, people doing the work, but management, the leads, the supervisors, they've got to be in on it too, because at the end of the day, if they're not selling it in their morning meetings, if they're not telling their employees how important it is, it's just going to falter. So getting employees involved, I think, in generating what that path to success looks like and what they're going to commit to doing is really been that biggest thing for me. But then focusing on the why to not so much here's what we're going to do, but you got to say that. You got to say what we're going to do, but why and why you think it's going to work. Getting that buy-in, and then keeping people invigorated around it. Like Gabriel's showing those scorecards in different ways, in simple ways, kind of keeps that invigoration around as well. So, thanks.
Thank you. Next one also is for you, Nathan, and asks if you can recommend any specific tools for assessing and improving safety maturity.
Yeah, there's typically not one agreed on tool necessarily. What we're using is a maturity matrix, and it's similar to a comprehensive EHS audit where we're asking questions on programs, but it's more kind of outcome focused and is a process in place and successful. Not so much a yes no, but what is it like? Is it being used, and can we see that evidence of being used? So it's essentially an audit, but look at what does it look like to be a mature organization, and it's kind of almost a set of goals. Being mature in our programs looks like this, and then how are we doing it, achieving those and then putting in corrective actions? How are we doing on or success for us or mature for us in training looks like this. And then if we're not already there, why not? And then how do we get there and so forth? So that's been what's worked for us pretty well, but it's a journey. And I don't think we can expect to go from, dependent to interdependent in a year for sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Looking for perspective from both of you on these next few, if you're up for it. This next question asks, is it possible for a company to have different departments at various stages of the Bradley curve simultaneously? And then if so, how do you recommend addressing this diversity and safety culture maturity within the organization?
Yeah, that's another good question. Yes, I will say it is possible. I will suggest begin by assessing your current safety culture maturity level of each department based on what we have talked about to date. And from my experience, there are some specific industry best practices that you may consider, like, for example, sharing lessons learned from incident programs or also implementing internal cross audits. There's another feature that we have available from one of our solutions, from our audit management solution, that is to share audit findings applicability reviews across multiple locations or departments. Okay, so initiatives like those should help to proactively identify opportunities for improvements across multiple departments or locations as well, if you have that situation also, to help with progress towards better organizational performance and safety culture.
Nathan, anything you'd like to add to that?
That was a pretty good answer, Gabriel. I appreciate, I don't think I'm not going to take time to add to that. I think it was well said. Is Kevin, can we take a question from the question and answer board by chance?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Looks like Jesse Boland had one. What is the
yes.
best way to get upper management to see the safety department as an asset? One of our managers has an us versus them mentality when it comes to safety, and that mentality absolutely spills to the drivers he has underneath him. Whew, what is the best way? I don't know. The best way, that's a tough one, but trust. You need trust with this, and building trust is a journey as well. And you may look at concepts coming from HOP or human and organizational performance, because it focuses around building trust, because once you have trust from workers, they work with you, they tell you exactly what's happening because they know you're going to be someone on their team to help solve their problems. We're early in our HOP journey, but we're seeing some good things coming out of it. And the thing that at the end of the day we have to remember, and we've talked a little bit about this in getting buy-in, but whatever your boss thinks is important, you think is crazy important. So yeah, you got to win that manager over, because if every, you're talking to them and you're in front of the group doing a safety meeting and the manager's like, yeah, I'm on board. And then you walk away and he's like, here's what we're really going to do. It goes all out the window, right? So making sure that we don't have, we're not that police where, how can I solve your problems? Help me learn more about it. And part of that is not trying to solve problems through disciplining people. I think, I'm not saying don't ever discipline people. There's time and place for that, but you don't fix a problem by disciplining the person as much as we want to think that maybe we do. Um, just the data's not really there to support that. Besides, even if you fix that one person through disciplining them, the next person who takes that job can do the same thing, right? So I know it's kind of a long, convoluted answer, but you may consider looking into HOP principles, human organizational performance. I think that can help that team mentality.
Well, thank you. Next question asks, are there any specific trends or emerging technologies you believe will have a significant impact on the future of safety management and organizational maturity?
Yeah, I will say artificial intelligence definitely is driving us to a new era of workplace safety. So I will advise to embrace it, but carefully. It's important to emphasize, the cautious integrations of artificial intelligence, acknowledging the benefits, but emphasizing the need for adequate testing and careful deployment at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm looking forward to some of the art of AI integration into the systems. And what I'm looking forward to, and I know it sounds creepy, but bear with me here, is integration into closed caption TV. So AI watching your camera feeds. And it's not so we can discipline people. It's not so we can catch them. But we've talked about reporting being important with our leading indicators. Imagine if the cameras can do the reporting because it sees it and it's 100% objective. And it's going to take a while for this to get vetted out and make sure. But again, it's not something to catch people doing something wrong. But the big barrier to getting good information is people have to do something to give it to us. Imagine taking that away or automating it. I'm not saying cameras and AI are the only way to do that. I think the technology companies such as IdeaGen are really working hard at, figuring this out. But that's what I'm looking forward to, is it could take work off people on the reporting side and we still get very accurate information. So I agree with Gabriel, cautiously optimistic on it. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, I'm excited to see what the next 5 or 10 years brings.
Great, thank you. It's been some good discussion and good insight on that one. We still do have some time, so again, a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question of Nathan or Gabriel, just click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, type your question, and click the send button. We'll get now to the next question. How can organizations ensure that safety initiatives are integrated into daily operations and not treated as standalone or separate from other business priorities?
That's a good question too. I will say, similar approach as we shared during the presentation with the strategic solutions. By creating a culture of accountability, your team should be meeting regularly, and that could be, formally or informally. And regardless of the formality, the focus of these meetings is simple. It's just to hold one another accountable for their actions that they need to take to move your safety lead measures so they don't lose the focus on that. So that's my personal advice on that, to take, safety as a priority among different functions or departments, depending on your organization.
Yeah, and this one can be big. I think the big word here is integrated. Because a big thing about safety, and we're trying to overcome this, is safety shouldn't be something you do in addition to production, right? Quality shouldn't be something you do in addition to production. Producing a quality part safely is the only way that's how it, like, if you don't do it that way, you did it wrong type of thing, or like almost shouldn't count. So integrating, the SOP on how to do the job, in my opinion, shouldn't be different than the JSA. Like, JSA is in the SOP because it's how you do the job safely. Same with quality. And then, like Gabriel's saying, it's part of that accountability. Like, it's just the one way to do things right, and people meet on it. this is how we do things right. It's not, this is ideally how we do it, but when pressure's really on, the bare minimum is over here. And if we get to the safety stuff, hey, good on us. But if we don't, it's fine as well. So, keeping that crew engaged and understanding what they have to do to win is a big one there.
Next one is for Gabriel, and it asks, are there specific strategies or best practices for measuring and tracking progress towards safety maturity over time?
Yeah, that's a good one too. Even when there is no consensus, about this concept and its measurement, as I just shared during the presentation, I recommend starting with defining your while important goals based on your reality today and where you want to go. And in this maturity process, getting your team's buy-in on your while important goals and creating that culture of accountability with competing scorecards, meeting regularly to keep that engagement in that process. That's my personal recommendation on that.
Thank you. Pivoting now, we have some more questions about recommendations. First one, do you have any training materials or suggestions for a newer safety chairperson?
I don't think I've been in an organization that has used the term chairperson. So that's a little bit hard to, is that like a committee chairperson by chance, Rachel? I don't know if maybe you can supplement that question with a little bit more information to help that a little bit better. But if it is someone from a safety committee or maybe someone different than a safety professional, I just get them involved whenever you can, meaning doing the audits, helping, giving the training, experiencing learning events or incident investigations, because okay, yeah, she's the chair for the safety committee. Perfect. Yeah, get involved, right? Because it's great to be degreed in safety. It's great to have your CSP, but we've all learned from doing it. Like, do the job on the floor, right? That's where the experience comes in. So anything you can do to shadow, to do the thing, to be in the candid conversations post incident, is really gonna help you there. And I think that's for everyone on the committee is, make sure that committee has purpose and things to accomplish, right? I think where committees have not done so well at my past jobs is when the committee talks about what's not going right and then, adjourns the meeting and so forth, right? What can we do during that meeting time that makes a difference? And there could be leading indicators for this committee, right? That's what's neat about some of these leading indicators. Like, can the committee help solve some of these problems that are stopping us from meeting that goal? And if they can we measure it, right? And now every time we have that committee meeting, we've got our safety committee scorecard that we can show on, are we winning or not? That's going to keep people invigorated. It's going to teach you as a chairperson how to influence those groups and how to make a difference, and it can be pretty exciting. So apologize, I don't necessarily have anything to provide to you, but hey, Safety and Health puts on some great webinars. Keep coming back to them, and I think that'll help you learn some more as well.
Yeah, and I will add to that is that when you volunteer for a professional organization like this one or for any others, there are some communities like practice specialties where you can lead and you can gain some knowledge and training related to that you can also bring those skills to your workplace if you are leading your site safety committee meetings as well. So that's another good approach to gain, additional training within the same profession while being able to obtain some other benefits like CEUs and stuff like that.
Do you either have any book or resource recommendations around leading indicators?
Sure, absolutely. The measurement of safety performance is the one that I have recommended by Dan Peterson. That one was published way back in 2005, but I always like to, even though we are in 2024 now, I like to understand the history to better understand the present, right? And I also read the Four Discipline of Execution, a great recommendation by Nathan. That one is another good book for key performance indicators as well.
Yeah, I love the Four Disciplines of Execution, and the neat thing about the book is it's not a safety book. but it uses safety examples in it along the way. And so here's what I was doing. Anytime there was a webinar on leading indicators, I would attend it. Anytime I was at a conference and there was leading indicators, I would attend it. And what I found that those types of webinars or conferences did is they would say, here's a cool leading indicator, go do this. And we try it. And after reading I think it was the first 2 chapters of 4DX or 4 Disciplines of Execution, I was like, I get leading indicators now. They're not something I can get from someone else necessarily. Like I may be able to get an idea, but they need to be tailored to my problems, and there's a process to do that. That's why I'm super excited to go out to Denver with Gabriel to talk more about that process at ASSP 2024, because we think it's a neat and a different way than what we've heard in some of some of the other types of trainings I've been to. So that'd be a great one.
All righty. Well, thanks very much. I know we're winding down, getting short on time. We covered a lot of ground in the Q&A and the presentation, but as we do close up, any final thoughts or anything left unsaid from either of you about the topic today?
I just cannot wait to see you all in Denver, Safety 2024 in our session. It's going to be during the first day, during the first time slot at 9:45 a.m. local time. Remember, the title of our session is Leading Indicators in Practice, Using a Structured Approach to Achieve Your Goals. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.
Nothing from my end. I appreciate everyone's time, and hope you got something out of it. Thank you.
Well, great. Thank you both, and thanks backtracking, Nathan, on you're puffing up some of our webinars too. We appreciate that and glad you enjoy them. Unfortunately, again, we've run out of time today. Sorry that we didn't get to everyone's questions, but all today's unanswered questions will be forwarded on to our speakers. And once again, we do hope you take the time to fill out the forthcoming evaluation survey that'll be coming up in a separate window. That really helps us on the future webcast when we get your feedback. With that, we end today's Safety and Health Magazine webcast. We'd like to thank Nathan Yon, Gabriel Atencio, everyone at Ideagen, and all of you who listened in. Thanks and have a great day.